If you are a restaurant owner facing the challenge of building a successful business while staying true to your values, then stick around. In this episode, we unravel the art of building a prosperous business while staying true to your values, addressing industry pain points, and achieving a harmonious balance between business growth and personal fulfillment. Welcome to the No Hesitations podcast, the show where restaurant leaders learn tools, tactics, and habits from the world's greatest operators. I'm your host, Kristen Marvin with Solutions by Kristen. I've spent the last 2 decades in the restaurant industry and now partner with restaurant leaders to help them overcome burnout, increase retention, reignite their passion, and drive successful businesses. This podcast is sponsored by Schedulefly. Schedulefly provides a simple, web-based and app-based restaurant employee scheduling software backed by legendary customer service. If you're using pen, paper, Excel, or a fancy scheduling software with tons and bells of whistles that you don't use, Schedulefly is perfect for your business. When I was a regional manager handling 7 locations, Schedulefly was our go-to for scheduling. It's hands down the easiest platform I've ever worked with. And their employee communication tool, awesome for shooting out mass messages about crucial restaurant updates. Visit schedulefly.com and mention No Hesitations Podcast to get 10% off. Today, we are welcoming Will Brawley, co-owner of Schedulefly Restaurant Employee Scheduling Software and the host of the Restaurant Owners Uncorked podcast with over 500 episodes and over 600,000 downloads. Holy moly, Will. I just hit 400 today and I was like doing backflips in my living room.
400,000?
No, 400.
You'll get there. Well, listen, you'll get there. It's amazing how it starts to compound, but you were just episode, I'm not sure what number we're at right now, but it's 500 and something. So thank you for doing that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I'm at 12. So a little bit behind you. I'm going to put this out there because you told me to, but Will's flip phone, which I love, we can talk about that. Your phone number is 704-906-2031 and is always happy to chat. Will, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's incredible to have you here. Appreciate it.
Super happy to do it. Absolutely.
I'm excited to share your story and give listeners an inside look behind the product of Schedulefly and really connect with you and your team and talk about your passion for the hospitality industry, which is something that we share. And I know we were able to connect for the first time last week, and I'm just inspired by all the work that you're doing to support the industry. And I'm just honored to have you on the show today. So
honored to be here. Love the industry.
Yeah. Well, so your background's not in hospitality. How the heck did you end up launching Schedulefly and getting into this amazing, wild, and crazy world?
Well, there's 5 of us here, and we've had the same 5 pretty much since we got started, 2007. Wes Aiken used to write the schedule in a restaurant back in the late 90s, early 2000s in college, and would sit in his apartment Sunday afternoons trying to piece together a schedule on Excel based on pieces of paper with time off requests and backs of receipts with I can't work this day, and he'd spend several hours crafting this schedule, knowing who can't work well with who and all this stuff, and creating this masterpiece schedule. And he would take it down and post it at the restaurant in the office there at the Bridge Tender in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. And then of course, as soon as it got posted, people were calling in and coming in and checking the schedule, and changes are starting to happen, and it just immediately everything is just chaos again. So he had the idea to write. He was like, well, what if I could just write he knows how to write code, and I could just write a simple solution for this that would make things a whole lot easier, and where people could access it from anywhere and, trade shifts without having to make 100 phone calls and put in their time off requests, where it's all in one place. And that was the genesis of Schedulefly. I mean, he had this thing, he had friends in the restaurant business, a couple of them trying it out when he had his server, in his closet in his place in Raleigh. And Wes and Tyler and Charles and Hank and I, that's our team. We all used to work at a different company in a different industry called First Research. And we went through an acquisition, and things kind of went awry, as they often do in acquisitions, and the culture was kind of destroyed. And we were all like, I'm not doing that anymore. And so that's kind of how this all got going. And we, over time, all five kind of came together over the next year or two to do this full time. And I'll be very honest. When I started, I thought, okay, good business idea. Not a lot of, at the time, not a lot of competition. We can make a successful, profitable business. Hopefully we won't ever have to raise capital. We can bootstrap this thing, not pay ourselves for a while, and just make a fun and successful business. And that was what I thought. And I also thought that I would be out selling to chains. I mean, what I did in my previous life was enterprise sales with that previous business. So I was out on airplanes and flying around and long-term sales cycles, big long-term, sales contracts. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go get all these chains to sign up for Schedulefly. And that was where we started. And then where we wound up was realizing we can't serve chains, don't want to serve chains, don't want to do all the stuff that chains need. And we're just going to focus on independence. And, thank goodness for that, because I've really developed a profound amount of respect for the people that own and work in and run independent restaurants, and what it takes to do that, how hard that is, but how rewarding, and not always even necessarily super rewarding financially, but rewarding personally. And there's a lot of heart and passion and love that goes into this industry. It's also the most diverse collection of people that you could find anywhere, that come from all walks of life and all backgrounds and all levels of education and all races and everything. And it's this place where no matter where you've been or what you've done, if you're willing to come and, work hard for the team and be a good teammate and take great care of your guests, then let's go, bring it on in. And I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah. You mentioned competition earlier. I don't know how many clients you currently have now. You've been around for 15 years. Is that right?
Yeah. Since 2007, 16. Yeah.
How have the five of you been able to stay so competitive in a market that is being very heavily invested in right now?
Oh gosh, there's been over $500 million in venture capital and private equity invested just into our competitors over the last 10 years. And so, Kristen, we know where we fit in, and we know what we're good at, and we sort of stay in our lane, and we've kind of carved out a bit of a niche. There are, to this day, there's still tens of thousands of restaurants and hospitality businesses that use pencil and paper or Excel. And if it works for them, they should just keep doing that. I'll be the first to say that. If it gets to the point where they're spending a lot of time on managing that could be devoted to something else, then we have this really simple solution, and we take really good care of our customers. And then we invest in our customers by, sharing their stories on our podcasts. And we've done some books and some films, and when they just need something simple and they really value doing business with a small business and they value great customer service, we're like, awesome. But then, so we're kind of in that place, right? They might grow into us. And then sometimes, Sweet Cow's an example, they might grow out of us where they have more complex needs. Well, goodness, we can't compete in that space. We've never raised a dime of capital. And as I said, there's been so much invested there, and that's fine, because there's a lot of different companies that have, a lot of other features and tools and bells and whistles, and they're all kind of fighting it out for those people that might outgrow us, or that have, more complicated needs or need more solutions. And that's not a fight we want to be in, because every day somebody's opening a restaurant and they're hanging their shingle out, and they just need, something simple, and like, we'll take great care of you, until we don't have what you need anymore. And totally cool. If I wrote a blog post, we don't have a blog anymore, but I wrote a blog post years ago. My daughter's a sophomore in college, when she was in third grade, I wrote a post it was I think it was titled "Schedulefly is like a third grade teacher," and my point was like my daughter grew into third grade, and this teacher was awesome and like really great teacher, and then at the end of the year, she said, like, you're beyond me now, and I wish you well and go on to fourth grade. And then she welcomed the next class of third graders, right? The following year, Miss Owen. And I was like, that's kind of like what we're, while you're here, we're going to take great care of you. And if you get to the point where you don't, you need more, then we'll wish you well and we'll stay friends with you. And, I'm still friends with the Sweet Cow guys. They're not customers anymore, but I love them.
Yeah, they're great for sure. Yeah. It sounds like you guys really are clear on who your ideal customer is and what your wheelhouse is and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do, which is just awesome.
All because we
Who,
didn't raise venture capital.
yeah.
That's a luxury that comes with that. If we had different ball game, but yeah, we
Mhm.
were fortunate to not have to. So we're able to kind of create our own rules and our own boundaries.
What was the point and moment of insight for you starting this company when you knew you had something that had some legs?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I think that I was I was pretty naive early on. I just kind of thought, well, gosh, if some people are paying for this, then tons of them will. And it turned out they did. But I think that at the end of the day, we knew. Well, first of all, we were fortunate that we didn't have to raise money. I mean, that's huge. That's a really, really big advantage if you're able to do that because you don't have to try to race and you're not dealing with not only trying to get customers, but also with investors. And, it's pretty clear early on that if I mean, we have a very, a common problem, which is that scheduling and communicating with staff is just a challenge in restaurants. So it's a pain point that kind of everybody deals with at some point in some way. And if you have a common pain point and you can provide a really simple solution to that, and then just take great care of the customer, whether it's scheduling software or whatever space that may be, and even what you do. I mean, there's a common problem of like trying to develop leaders. And so if you have an issue that most people are dealing with and you have an easy way for them to engage you and you have an easy solution for them and you just take freaking great care of them, then you got a business, right? And then how scalable is it is all, up to you. Look, we have far fewer customers than we could have had we decided, okay, we're growing at this rate. Let's go rake in a bunch of money and deploy that into sales and marketing and really just scale this thing up. And we have people that started way after us that have a lot more customers than us. That's okay. That's not how we measure success. My measurement is, we love what we do. We wake up every day and get to have fun at what we do. We take phenomenal care of our customers every day, which is a lot of fun. And we have the ability to spend, we all five of us, we're all fathers, 2, 3 kids, all of us. We've been able to spend time with them, watch them grow. As you and I talked about on our episode, I mean, I've spent a massive amount of my personal energy on fitness and nutrition and over the last 15 years. And I suspect that if we were in a situation where we were, growing at 5 times the rate with 5 times the problems, I would have let myself go. I wouldn't be in this situation that I am now, which I feel like I can do this forever with that balance.
Was that part of the initial vision that you had, knowing, hey, let's talk about lifestyle. Let's talk about what the 5 of us really want our lives to look like. And then how does that coincide with the business and how do we keep that balance? Was that part of the original vision or is that something that you kind of have found throughout your career?
A little bit of both. I mean, we knew we didn't want to go like we had been a part of a fast growing business and we were acquired and we knew what that meant and what that led to. I mean, I was a shareholder in that business. Personally, financially, it was great, but it was the worst. The earnout period was the worst 18 months of my life. I mean, I was early 30s, losing hair and stressed and not sleeping. And they kind of, so we knew we didn't want that. And yeah, I mean, our goal was we thought, well, if we get to, 100 customers and 1,000 customers and then 10,000 customers. And then, I mean, and I don't know if we'll get to 10,000. We were closer before COVID than we are now. We have fewer customers now than we did before COVID. But and then we had a ransomware attack and we lost some business from that, so I mean, in the last few years, I couldn't be more proud of this business so that I am now more than ever, because, since in the last, let's say 5 years, hundreds of millions of dollars invested in the competitive tools. COVID takes out, at the time we did, like, would we even have a business still, right? Like, you didn't know when COVID started, but so COVID takes out a lot of our customers, and we get hit with a ransomware attack. So we've just withstood this just massive amount of forces and pressures against our business. And that yet here we are on the other side of all that with, nearly 6,000 customers, super, super happy customers. And, we're building on our media side of our business. We have a lot of things that we're working on there with the podcast and content generation. We kind of every day is very similar. We have happy customers. We don't have a lot of support, which is why we can do this with 5 people. We have 250,000 end users. We might get 5 phone calls a day, maybe 10 on a busy day, and maybe 30 or 40 emails. So that's been very, very deliberate. Keep the software. We've never done a training session, keep the software simple, make it kind of point, click, and go. And then when people need something, they're going to get us. They're going to call and they're going to get us. Or if they get a voicemail, they're going to get a call right back. Or if they send an email, they're going to get an email right back. And it's highly sustainable because we're not like 24/7, 365 pedal to the metal, like burning ourselves out.
Good balance. Yeah. I can really attest to that too. With using Schedulefly at Sweet Cow, I had a background in writing schedules with Excel, right? Same thing like you were saying earlier. Grab a piece of POS receipt paper, staff's handing them to me left and right? Taking them in the office, putting them in my sheet at the end of the day, just make sure I wouldn't take them home with me and wash them or forget them. And moved on to hot schedules. When I worked for Snooze, we worked with hot schedules for a little bit. And then working with you at Schedulefly, we didn't need a lot of support, which I love because the system is so simple. And whenever I would need anything, Steve was like, I'm going to email Will, and I'd see the emails come through, right? And you were just so quick to respond. And I think, even though I saw those emails, we were with you during the ransomware attack. And I just have to say that was such a moment, I think, that spoke to your culture and how much you care about your customers and how available you are, because I can only imagine that was hell. I can't remember if it was 4 to 6 weeks or how long it was that went on.
It seemed like 4 to 6 months. It was 12 days. It was
12
days.
Oh my God. It seemed like so long for us too.
Oh, I bet it did.
The team was like, when's the schedule going to be up? When's the schedule?
Yeah.
And so we didn't have, we had to go back to Excel and for just a short time. And I didn't know who you were, who the team was at Schedulefly, but you started producing videos that were being sent to us. And in that moment, it was like, holy shit, there's a real human behind this tech company, which you don't normally necessarily think. And you were so sincere and so genuine. And you could feel through that video how much you cared about us and that you were working so hard to try to get us back up and running. And it wasn't about keeping us as a customer. It wasn't about, hey, we'll discount you or, whatever the case was. It was just truly about like, we're sorry, we're trying, we're here, know that we feel the pain that you're going through. And that was a really eye-opening moment for me working with Schedulefly. So I really appreciated everything you guys did during that really challenging time.
Thank you. We have no PR team. We had no idea. I was like, all I know to do is just talk to people. Like, I like to share and I like to communicate and I like to be authentic and open and so yes, that was what we thought was the best thing to do, is look at the camera and say, look, y'all, I think this really freaking sucks and it sucks for you. We woke up that day, it was January 1st, 2022. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even imagine running a restaurant right now. And we're down and they're trying, it's New Year's Day. I was like, oh, I feel horrible for all of our customers. But I got to tell you, Kristen, what I learned, I've got chills right now thinking about this. And what I learned about the people we serve, this is why I already loved it, the people we serve, and I loved our business, and we had been doing I've been talking to people all these years, but man, y'all showed up in such a positive way, because I thought justifiably, we'd probably have a lot of people calling us being like, dude, what, F you, like we're screwed, like we're really having problems right now because but we didn't. We had some, of course. 97% of the communication was, we love you. We got your back. We're going to work through this. We'll use it. We'll go back next. We'll do whatever. Like, we're here for you, man. I mean, I don't know how we would have gotten through that. Like the mental fatigue of that was without that support. And I think that your industry, the hospitality industry, is would handle that better than any other group of customers there is, because that's what y'all do, is you take care of people, and you know that every day stuff happens, things go awry, and you're used to having to deal with that. So I was so blown away at how positive the feedback we got was. It was I mean, I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that. And how that sustained, I mean, that sustained me. There's no doubt about it. I don't know how I would have gotten through it mentally. I think I had just a complete breakdown without the amount of absolute, abject, incredible support that y'all gave us. So
yeah, you get what you give,
that was awesome.
right?
Well, I guess so. I mean, yeah, that's right.
What was the biggest gift that besides what you just talked about, what was the biggest gift that the company really found coming off of that challenge?
Well, I mean, look, it sucked, but it made us better. I mean, we're like bank level secure now. And I think this was not the intent, but what you just said, I mean, I still get people. I mean, it's been almost 2 years now. It'll be 2 years this January. I get people that almost every week that when like they call and I get the call and they're like, I need to change my credit card or whatever. And then we'll do that. And then they're like, they tell me the same thing you just said, which is, God, when y'all had that ransomware thing, like we had no idea it was just a small, I think it was just made us relatable, like, because we are just a small team and we serve small teams. And so I think that built this level of this bond with our customers that probably we never would have had to that degree had that not happened. So that was this weird positive outcome where people were like, we love these guys and we're sticking with them because they're not this big VC backed company where it doesn't really matter. And, like this is their livelihood. And I think they saw that. And I think a lot of people gained a level of, I don't know, camaraderie with us that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, it's so refreshing when you're an operator and you're moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you've got a tech problem. You just want to get that fixed as fast as possible because it creates a bottleneck in your business that is out of your control and is very stressful for you, for the employees and the guests, right? And it's so refreshing to be able to not have to send an email and then or start a ticket and, or do an online chat with somebody or be on the phone for 4 hours on hold. And I'm not exaggerating, because and take yourself out of operations because you're just dealing with that one thing and you're hoping to speak to a human. So you definitely, the simplicity in the systems that you have created are so important to managing the manager stress and right. Streamlining operations. So thank you for that from a firsthand experience. Would you share some of your client stories around how Schedulefly is helping restaurant owners retain their managers and employees?
Well, it's funny because it's been interesting. We've had all this money invested into these competitive tools over the last few years. So there were people that would move on and go to something else. Now we're starting to see there's this term of right sizing your tech stack that you're starting to hear more and more of. And we're starting to see people come back. And I'll give you an example because it's real fresh. It's the episode I literally just posted, I think yesterday, with David Weeks. He's a Dunkin' franchisee. He also has Nukes and Barbaritos, but the Dunkin', the franchisor, we have mostly independent restaurants, but we'll get these franchisees where they have autonomy, and it may be Dunkin' or Jersey Mike's or whatever it is. So he's been a customer a long time, and this summer he called. He's like, "Hey man, I hate to do this, but they really want us to move to this this new system. It's all integrated. It's all in one place. I mean, the siren song of integration is really appealing. So he's like, so we're gonna have to leave you. I love you, but we're gonna move to this new system. It's gonna be a little bit more efficient. Blah, blah, blah. And then he calls me like 3 or 4 weeks ago. He goes, Will, we turned you off 2 months ago. How do we come back? And I'm like, oh, I can, like, you guys want to come, like, when do you want? He goes, as soon as possible. Is it going to take like a few weeks, or do we have to build it? I was like, no, I mean, do you want me to turn you on right now? He's like, oh my God, are you serious? So I literally just turned their account back on. And he's like, you're not going to believe this, but we had a GM meeting and our head of operations came to me and said, look, one of the topics today is we all want to go back to Schedulefly. We want it back and the employees want it back. They don't want to be dealing with this other stuff. It's complicated. It makes their life harder. They love Schedulefly. It's easy. It's simple. And that's what they want. That's what we want. And David Weeks, he's like, well, that's what I want too. Let's do it. So my point being that, like, we focus on the end user experience. We want Schedulefly to be simple and reliable and just not something you have to think about. You shouldn't be spending a ton of time in Schedulefly trying to manage things and do things. And that's what he said they were doing with this other stuff. They spend all their time like just dealing with the tool. With Schedulefly, it ought to be like boom, boom, quick, simple. I don't need anybody to tell me what to. We've never done a training session. So to answer that question, when I can confidently say, if you put a Schedulefly in front of an employee that has used us, and pick your competitors, I won't say that, whatever, all the other well-known names, and that you say, which one do you want to use? We're going to let y'all choose, not what we choose at the top, because we need 7, 8, 9 times out of 10, I put my money they'll choose Schedulefly. And I say that because anecdotally I hear that all the time. We don't even want to leave Schedulefly because everybody loves it. And now we got to go to this more complicated thing, but it's all tied together into our POS and blah, 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 blah. Give them the choice, they'll choose Schedulefly. And so we work well in cultures where they want their employees to be really happy and have what they need. And, they defer to them to help make these decisions versus forcing something on them.
Yeah, I would say that the ease of the system has really, I appreciated it managing 7 locations, 6 to 7 locations with Sweet Cow, because it was so easy for the managers to write a schedule, look at the report to see where their labor was being distributed, add new employees in. They could spend more time and energy on the floor with their guests and with their team, which is what they really wanted to do at the end of the day, right? And the staff loved the communication tool. I mean, we could rapid fire messaging out like, hey, there's a schedule change tonight. Hours are changing. There's an issue. During the pandemic, we were messaging every single day. And it was just such an important tool for us to use.
Well,
and the managers loved it, of course. So you talked a little bit earlier, but tell me who is Schedulefly not for?
Well, look, our biggest customers have 15 to 20 locations, I mean, and some of them, quite frankly, probably use Schedulefly when maybe theoretically they may well have, in some ways they're probably using it, even though they could use something else that may make things more efficient. I don't know. Like Big Red F, Dave and Dana, I mean, they've been a customer for over a decade now. I mean, most places like that get to a point where they're putting all things into, one place and integrations and all this kind of stuff. But this is what I talk about is like, we're the right fit when you have a culture of trust and autonomy and appreciation for who you do business with. What I mean is, they could say there, oh, well, it's not integrated with our point of sale. We want it to be because we want to systemically prohibit people from clocking in early. And, with Schedulefly there, we can't, well, that's, if you need that, that's fine. But then when you have a culture of really tight knit people who are bought into what you're doing and trust, you don't have to systemically prevent them from clocking in early. You coach them on why, and we with transparency of the numbers and where the money comes and goes and how it flows, that they understand, like, hey, if we're all clocking in early or clocking out late, we're kind of taking advantage of the system, and then we're all going to collectively suffer from that. So why don't we police that ourselves versus like having that and then having, well, then you have somebody that needs to come in early because the manager, and then they got to stop what they're doing and go in there and key like our customers. That's how they roll. It's a very, trusting culture where they're not relying on technology to uh, dictate people's behavior. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
That's who we work well with. So, and there's a point where you probably like, look, I'll put it to you this way: we knew this early enough that I bet it was. I'd have to look at the year. I bet it was 2009 or 10. I wrote a blog post, and it was titled "Why We Walked Away from $250,000 and a Million Headaches." And this was early. We weren't even probably doing 250,000. I'm sure we weren't in revenue at that point per year. And we had a person who was familiar with Schedulefly that was part of a chain of restaurants and was called and was like, I really want to put Schedulefly in. It would have been like 250 grand a year. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Maybe we could do this. And then, we talked, and Wes is like, they're never going to stay with, we'll never make them happy. They'll always want more. And then we'll be in their back pocket. And so called the guy back the next day, and I was like, dude, we're not going to, we don't want your business. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you should call Hot Schedules. Like, that's what they're for. Like, we don't do that. We don't want to do that. He could, I think the guy paused for like 30 seconds before he said another word. He was so surprised, but like, we knew we're not going to make those people happy. And that's not what we want to do. We want to serve people that, just want something simple and love their team. And quite frankly, Kristen, like people that outgrow us a lot of times, they get so top down in corporate that the people that were there when it was fun and small and trust, they leave, they go down the street, they go to the restaurant that's on Excel, and they're like, hey, we need a scheduling solution. And they're like, I know one, and then they go to Schedulefly.
Yeah. I've been a part of that Aloha rollout where you couldn't allow people to clock in 5 minutes before the shift or after. And rolling that out was, to think about it now makes me want to throw up, because it's just not an easy sell to the team. And the message that it sends is like you said, is one of lack of trust, which is really hard when people have been working for you for 5, 7, plus years. Mm-hmm. And I love that you said no. I've heard a couple stories of people saying I've said no to a big client. I've walked away from a huge financial, game changer for us. But an important part of your culture is knowing when to say no. And I love that you are protecting that.
We've said no a million times particularly it's tapered off now, but for years and years and years, it'd be like, I think I wrote another blog post one time. It was like, we said yes once a week, to just one little tweak or one little change, one little, like just a couple lines of code. And now we have another checkbox or something like that. You say once a week, 52 times a year. And then 5 years later, we have 260 new bells, whistles, features, changes, buttons. And now all of a sudden, this simple thing that was so easy to use that you didn't even need training on is like so complicated. You're just going out, and what are you doing? Well, now I'm going to go look for a simple solution. This is too much. And so, yeah, saying no has been very important to our ethos.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I want to give, I know we've got a couple minutes left here. I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how to find you, but also share with listeners what's next for Schedulefly. How are you going to continue to keep taking care of those customers?
Yeah, excellent. Well, we're going to keep doing a lot of the same. One of the things that we have done differently, or not done differently, but we've really started we kind of had our heads down below the radar for a long time. In the last year or two, I've really started to lean into LinkedIn and get to know other companies. And we're now really good friends with and partnering in some form or capacity with companies like Pop Menu and Kickfin. And we've been doing, just trying to build relationships with other companies that serve the same types of customers that also provide a great product. And this is the most important part, great customer service, and take excellent care of their customers. And so we're real particular about who we build those relationships with. But when we validate them and we we lean into those relationships and try to help them, and they try to help us. And, awareness is our biggest issue. Like, it's just, in a weird way, it's harder than ever to create awareness because there's so much noise and so much stuff out there, and people are getting hit with so many different types of technology. So we just try to find other channels like this. And thank you for the opportunity to let people know that we exist. And they can find us at schedulefly.com, and they can call my cell phone. You gave it out. I'll give it again. It's 704-906-2031. It's on the free trial sign up page. If you go to schedulefly.com and click free trial, there's my name. There's my number. Call anytime. I love talking about our business. If we're not the right fit, I'll tell you where else you can look,
I love it.
And yeah, that's it. And we'll just kind of keep doing what we're doing.
That's great.
Oh, I will say this.
Yeah. This
is new. This is the first place we've said this. We have an app in the App Store for the first time ever. 16 years, we never had an app in the App Store. We have one now. We've had a mobile-friendly website for a long time. Now we have an app too. So if you want the app, go download it. It's in the App Store.
You heard it here first. I love it.
You heard it here first. That's as of like 2 days ago. Seriously.
Thanks for letting the cat out of the bag. Well, congrats. Yeah. Well, thanks again so much for being here. Would love to have you back and talk more about leadership development and routines and boundaries and culture and all that good stuff. So
let's stay in touch, and let's get you introduced to some of our customers that you'd like to work with that maybe, could use your help.
I appreciate it. All right, everybody, subscribe and listen each week wherever you find your podcasts, and be sure to follow me on LinkedIn at Kristen-Marvin, and subscribe to the Restaurant Solutions newsletter for restaurant leadership tips. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.